back to another episode of Am I Missing Something? I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
This one, we don't do it that often, kind of more of a commentary show if you haven't heard of our ones from before. Some of the most popular ones that we've done in the past, Am I Missing Something? On Greta Van Fleet, and everybody's favorite band, Radiohead. Go back and check those out if you haven't done so. Kind of give you an idea of the format of what we're doing here. But this one kind of came about unexpectedly. The Grammys. Oh, the Grammys. They love to do some things, and then they love to also not do some things. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's about Eddie Van Halen. Time.
In a nutshell, a lot of people are upset at how the Grammys handled their tribute to Eddie Van Halen. If you watch the show, which actually, apparently this is the lowest rated Grammys ever, so you probably didn't actually watch it, but to give you a
maybe
quick
something
recap,
will change now.
Maybe. The in memoriam section of the show, which always raises objections or criticisms, instead of having an artist perform for Eddie Van Halen like they did for John Pine, Little Richard, and Kenny Rogers, they played 15 seconds of Eruption and then did a pan shot of...
Hold on. May I interrupt on this piece? Because that part of Eruption isn't even really part of Eruption. It's part of like the preamble that he played live getting actually to Eruption. Correct.
So you're right. So they played a live recording of him performing, and then it was his famous Frankenstrat guitar appearing with a shot of him behind. And the uproar is, how could the Grammys only do 15 seconds? They couldn't find someone to perform for him. And a lot of people have been outspoken, and even Wolfgang Van Halen, his son, has come out saying that while he actually declined playing Eruption after they asked him to play, because he felt, no one really can play Eruption, he was really disappointed at the fact that the little they mentioned of his father throughout the show, as well as how short it was. In this special episode of Am I Missing Something, where we really just try to dissect both sides of an argument about a band, album, song, trend, or event, we really have the question, ask ourselves, is it as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be? Before we go into this, I do want to give a special shout out to Lucky 13 Beard Company. They are a sponsor, and they really produce some incredible beard oils right here in our home state of New Jersey.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff, and the owner, Ed, really great guy. Him and I have been talking about the beard oil and stuff for some time now, and he wanted to kind of wait to sponsor us till he got some new scents out, and he actually put out a whole bunch of new ones. Cherry Cola is a brand new one, my favorite, Tobacco Vanilla, and then he kind of combined the best of both worlds. See what he did there? And he did Cherry, Tobacco, Vanilla, so they all smell really great. If nobody else that uses these products, you're going to smell completely unique. They're great, make our beards nice and soft, and we actually have gotten a coupon code from Ed, and he's giving you 10% off your next order. So if you head on over to etsy.com/shop/lucky13, the number Beard Co., put in the code EFP10, get 10% off your next order.
That's right. These oils are so good. Even Sammy Hagar will smell great after he uses them. That's my guarantee. So again, head over to etsy.com/shop/lucky13 Beard Co. Use the code EFP10 to receive 10% off of your next order of beard oils. Do it while you listen to us discuss this controversial topic. Surprisingly, a great soundtrack to buying beard oils. That's what we've been told. So now let's get into this. I would actually like to start by saying what might be the most controversial take on this scenario.
Dun, dun, dun.
I watched it live, and I actually thought it was a great tribute. I'm sorry. I said it. I actually thought the Grammys did right by Eddie to a certain degree. Do I think they could have done more? Maybe. Would it have been kind of nice to see other guitarists? Actually, I would argue maybe not. Because, I'm sorry, do I really need to see the Steve Vai or any other guitarist try to do Eruption note per note? I actually thought that, maybe 30 seconds or the actual recording of Eruption would have been better. I actually was really moved by the symbolism of the guitar standing there. Seeing the guitar empty on stage with Eddie kind of in the background visually was a powerful statement that there is no one who can even come close to playing like Eddie Van Halen. Thoughts?
So I'm going to say
where you disagree with me?
this is where I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to disagree because it feels like a cop-out. The Grammys always manage to cop out when it comes to rock in any capacity at all. And there's been controversies over the years of them leaving certain people out because maybe nobody knows who they are. But in the rock and the metal world, yeah, people know who they are, and it's a big deal. So coming into this with one of the innovators of the guitar, I even feel, and I don't remember if they did it, and I could be shooting myself in the foot, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that what they did with Les Paul when he passed away, that was even too little, because he was the man who brought the electric guitar to life. And now Eddie Van Halen, one of the biggest innovators of the guitar, like you can argue that half of the guitarists, if not more, like Slash, Steve Vai, Zakk Wylde, all of these guys looked up to Eddie Van Halen in any sort of capacity. There was actually, I'm gonna go down this road. There was, when Eddie Van Halen first teamed up with Fender to put out his signature amplifier, there was a video series that they did talking about what Eddie Van Halen meant to them and meant to the guitar. All you need to do is watch that to understand how big he actually is. If you are trying to understand why we're talking about Eddie Van Halen, maybe, you clicked on this video and you don't necessarily know a lot about Eddie Van Halen. Okay, that's fine.
You just like guys with colorful guitars, and you're like, oh, that looks like a fun picture.
Right,
Fine, cool.
exactly. You know what? It looked like a cool guitar. Now you're seeing this on the internet, so you clicked on it. Okay, great. Welcome, first and foremost. But Eddie Van Halen, and watching this video that was put together, you're going to understand how special Eddie Van Halen was. People didn't hear the guitar played this way prior to Eddie Van Halen being popular and being around in the industry. So to deny him, I think, any sort of proper tribute from the recording industry, it feels like a slap in the face. 15 seconds, and I understand the symbolism of the guitar on the stage and not playing and I don't understand not playing the right part of Eruption, but that's besides the point. But I understand that symbolism, and he was the only one to play his own music, and I understand all that. But, they put together all these other performances for all of these other individuals, and I get that they're all legends in their own right. But the problem for me is that you have members of this band who have come out of the woodwork now and say how much they regret not reconciling with Eddie, or having such bad blood with him since his passing, and they regret all of that. And what would have been a better way than to bring some of them together, if not all of them? They could have gotten maybe Sammy to sing, or couldn't played with a house band or something,
but
more than just a guitar on the stage.
To me, because you're saying that it was a slap in the face tribute, I don't agree with that. I get it. We all know the legacy that he had. And you even mentioned there's been millions of tributes to him. Did we really need to see? I mean, first off, as much as I'm sure it'd be lovely to see Michael Anthony, Sammy Hagar, even David Lee Roth on stage paying a tribute, I don't need it to be at the Grammys. Who knows if that's even going to be any good? The truth of if you're really just trying to highlight the influence that he's had, do you really need a million artists who, whether they worked with him or not, on stage doing it? Is that really going to make any more of an impact than what the Grammys ended up doing? I would think that a young fan who maybe is not familiar with Eddie Van Halen might look at a performance of all these artists and be like, I don't see I just see a bunch of old guys on stage performing. I can't resonate to that. Where instead you see a 15-second part of silence with a guitar. It's like there's a little mystique to it, at least. I don't really buy the fact that doing more would have paid any more tribute than what they actually did. I actually think it saved us a lot. I mean, furthermore, to your point, all right, so you get a guitarist. There's no pleasing rock fans. I'm going to just say that out loud too. I bet you whoever they got, if they were to get one guitarist to do 30 seconds of Eruption, there's going to be a million trolls going, that's all they could have gotten? That's the only person they could have got? Well, that's ridiculous. To me, I appreciated a little something different than just some artist trying to replicate Eddie Van Halen or just to cover him. I actually thought they made their point that he really was an irreplaceable artist, as opposed to a blown out, drawn out performance featuring musicians who you can question what their motives really were, whether it really was to pay tribute or if they just wanted TV time. I don't buy the argument that it was disrespectful. I just don't. Other than maybe they could have found a better recording.
And that's where I think some of the disrespect comes in, because you didn't even take the time to figure out that if you couldn't get Wolfgang to play Eruption, or you didn't want to get anybody else to play Eruption, fine. But at least get the damn song. Like, get the solo right. Go back to the first album and play it. You didn't have to play the video that went along with what he was playing. You could have just gotten the Eruption recording, because at that point, what did it matter? Put a picture of him on the screen, do it in black, red, and white, call it a day at that point. But no, you made a point to put it on the screen and then have him just play this interlude prior to Eruption. It didn't make any sense.
So your source of frustration is not necessarily that they didn't get anyone to actually play in his honor, or is it?
That's part of the frustration. Because they didn't take the time to get it right, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Second off, you reached out to Wolfgang. Okay, he didn't want to play Eruption. What about his brother? What about Alex?
Hold on. I'm glad you brought that up, because, and now granted, it took a few days for the producer to come out saying this. The producer of the Grammys actually did an interview where he confirmed, yes, they did have conversations with Wolfgang. And not only did Wolfgang turn down the opportunity because he didn't feel that he could, that, it was right for anyone to play Eruption.
And that's fair enough.
By the way, he definitely can play Eruption. There's a video of him playing Eruption on bass. Granted, guitar versus bass, people's different comforts. He totally could have if he really wanted to. And I bet you that if they let him play his song Distance, which is a tribute to his father, instead, and let that song be the song for the whole montage, I bet you he would have said yes, which actually probably would have been a great tribute to everyone, because that song is a beautiful, touching tribute to just losing someone special. But not only did the producer say that, they talked to Wolfgang and he turned them down, the producer claims that they actually recommended guitarists to Wolfgang, saying, hey, what do you think about these 9 guitarists? Any of them do you think would be a good person to pay tribute? And apparently Wolfgang said, you know what? I don't think anyone should play. It sounds like he signed off on the idea of there just being a guitar. It sounds like Wolfgang's biggest issue was that it was too short. They didn't make any reference to Eddie throughout the night other than those 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then if he signed off on that, then how can he have any hate for anything that they did? If he essentially gave up all creative control,
exactly.
But then it could have been a free reign on the Grammys to do whatever it is that they wanted to do. If they wanted to get somebody come out there and play Eddie's Frankenstrat to Mary Had a Little Lamb,
maybe they realized, you know what, that's a good idea. And furthermore, everyone keeps saying, oh, they only showed his image on screen. They just had a guitar. He actually got more attention than most of the artists and people who are part of that longer tribute.
Yeah, but then you can also make the argument that how many of them changed the scope of what it was to
understandable, but
in your profession,
But and then I still go back to, I don't know if they needed to do more. And you even mentioned before, there's been millions of tributes. Every guitarist has spoken about the influence that Eddie has had on them. It's been well documented. Even before he passed away, there's been tributes to him. Did the Grammys really need to add on to it? I feel like they would have opened themselves up to just as much hate if they got even the original band members, even if they got his brother. It just, to me, I don't think anything would have had more of an emotional attachment to it than what they did. It would have been cool to see the reigning members of Van Halen reunite. I don't think it was needed. And frankly, I don't know if I would want the Van Halen reunion, quote unquote, or the Van Halen tribute to really happen at the Grammys. If anything, I think that should be its own thing.
And I think it is going to be its own thing. I'm sure I heard some rumors of that.
In fact, I bet you that they tried to, and Sammy and Michael's like, no, we actually already have something planned already.
Yeah, but okay. Let's say that they didn't want to get or they couldn't get any of the other guys because they disagreed. I think if they really wanted to do Eddie right, what they should have done, and this is where the Grammys always screws up with rock, is they always forget about it. Granted, it's not as popular as watching people grind on a bed on a stage, but you know, if you mention him alongside of all these other people, especially when he was as big of an innovator as he was, then yes, okay, that part is taken care of. When it comes to this video montage and watching this 15 seconds, how hard would it have been to switch the lights off, throw a spot on the guitar, play the right piece of Eruption, maybe with like a small actual video package, and then call it a night? Because at least then it would have felt more special for this. And granted, you're going to say, well, there's the other people. And I said this before, but I think Eddie is more special because he changed the landscape of his instrument. Yes, there's been people who have had great vocals and who have had great and legendary careers, but they cannot say that they've changed the face of what it meant to play guitar. If you go from what the 70s was before Eddie and go from, you know, like Jimmy Page playing, you know, his solos, you know, it's all just straight ahead guitar. Then Eddie comes along with Eruption, and everybody wants to know what the hell he's doing, because is this even a guitar? How is this a guitar? How do I sound like this? How do I change my playing? How do I adapt my style to it? And that's what made Eddie special and what influenced everybody up until now. You know, I would argue that we're starting to get away from those Eddie Van Halen players now, because he is, no offense, so far in the past. And maybe, like you said, if they did a little bit more to make this feel a little bit more special than just putting a guitar on a fully lit stage with the blue background from CBS, you know,
you're telling me that if the lights were a little bit darker, that really would have made it more special. I mean,
well, hang on.
No, I'm sorry, but I think I get it. Maybe if they played a different video, and they play, like, maybe they did a little bit more research on the song itself, but I still have a hard time fully understanding that it was that much worse than what you're describing they could have done. What you're describing? It feels incomplete.
It feels incomplete. That's what it does. It's not that what they did, outside of not mentioning him throughout the rest of the show. Let's just talk about the guitar segment. It feels incomplete because how hard is it to go back to Van Halen 1, throw it in, and listen to what Eruption was? Okay, this is what we've got to put to this. So you found a video of him somewhere playing the interlude prior to Eruption, and nobody had the insight anywhere to say, is this really Eruption? Is this the whole thing? Or if you even find a live show and watch him doing his 3/16 solo where he goes through all of his solos and throws Eruption in the middle, if that's what you found, all of this sounds a little bit different. Which one's Eruption? Hey, Google, what album was Eruption on? Oh, okay, so it's on Van Halen 1. Let's go to Van Halen 1. You couldn't do that? Like, they couldn't figure that out? And then I think if you're trying to make this special, and if you wanted Wolfgang to come play Eruption, obviously you know that this is something special, and you wanted to do something special for him. If he turned it down, why wouldn't you try to do something a little bit more up on the production value than plopping a guitar, as special as the Frankenstrat is, on a stand in front of a blue screen? You couldn't have done something a little bit more. Obviously, you did want to do something a little bit more, but you just didn't decide to carry on with it.
But what more would you have wanted to see?
Like I said, if you couldn't get anybody else and everybody else either turned it down or it just weren't available to do it,
so
throw you wanted some more production value at it.
So more, you're saying that you would have liked a better video package.
I would have, right, a more special video package would have made this thing felt a little bit better. Granted, it's not as good as his son coming out and playing either his song or playing Eruption. How hard is it to get the lights and the video guy together and say, look, for this, can we hit a single spot, because, you know, that would be really cool on that guitar on stage with Eruption and maybe a video package. Or even if you manage to get just like his signature red, black, and white all over the screen with Eruption, I mean, that would have been so much better. It wouldn't have felt cheaped out. It felt really cheap.
I respect that. And you're right. They could have done a little bit more production, but I still appreciate even just the image of the guitar there was still powerful enough for me to forgive the fact that they didn't have a performer, that they didn't have someone playing in his honor or in his place.
What's also interesting to me, and I'm very curious about this, how far in advance did they actually try to get this together? Because, and this could be a conspiracy theory, call me a conspiracy theorist if you will, but if they forget about rock all the time at the Grammys, and it always feels like an afterthought, well, did you really try that hard? Did you get Wolfgang or his representative like a day or two before? Or did you try like a week or a month before? Like when did you decide to do this? Oh, hey, Eddie Van Halen. Oh, wait, he did pass away last year. Oh, wait. Yeah, you know what? We might want to put him in here and do something maybe a little bit special. How much time do we have? Oh, we got a couple days. Can we? Does he have a son? Can we get him on the phone and see if he wants to do something? You know, when did they do that?
I doubt it was a very last minute decision. It definitely didn't seem like a lot of thought went into it, which I will give. I just still am questioning how much more, what would, like, everyone keeps, I guess it kind of goes back to me being annoyed at and I love Eddie Trunk, but if I hear him talk about how rock and metal don't get enough respect one more time, I'm just gonna flip. Like, when did rock become so entitled? I constantly hear Rock Hall of Fame ignoring rock and roll, the Grammys ignoring rock and roll. What happened to rock being a rebellious spirit, not giving a crap about whether it was liked or not? Since when did we become a bunch of whiny entitleists who demand TV time, who demand the respect and get annoyed when another artist who might not be part of that genre gets more attention than rock? And I say that as a rock fan. It just, and years ago I was also, man, that stinks. Rock and metal don't get like, it's just tiring.
It is, but you know what the problem is though? The problem is, and I'm going to relate it to something that was on at the Grammys. It's Cardi B. It's that entire genre. That's why.
But I actually like Cardi B.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to another episode. No, but here's the problem is in my opinion, and a lot of people are probably going to tell me I'm wrong because it's the internet, that Cardi B and all of them, and when they're trying to portray their messages to the public about, you know, that this is a woman's entitlement song and this is this, that, and the other thing, and they're up on the stage and they have to have a disclaimer before their performance saying that this is sexual in nature, but this is also pop culture and it's drilled into your head on pop radio. Okay, so there's one thing about listening to the lyrics to this song, but then it's another thing to see this type of performance. But that's what people want. But you know that there are teams and teams and teams of engineers, producers. There's people putting together this stuff behind the scenes. There is literally a team of probably 30 to 40 people just to get this thing called Cardi B off the ground. Granted, bands, hold on. Bands have to grind and grind and grind in order to get even a little taste of success. With these bands having to go through so much to even get recognized and get signed nowadays because rock isn't as popular as it was, that's where I think that this all comes from, is because it's so easy to turn on a pop star. You know, there's American Idol, there's some, you know, the Voice and all these other shows. I almost said America's Got Talent, but I don't think they pick people from there. I don't know. I don't watch it.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Go ahead.
You don't think rock bands have the same amount of teams and support behind the scenes? I mean, like,
I agree that they do to an extent.
You think this is just a hip hop model?
No.
Like, I'm sorry,
I don't think
Motley Crue. I keep.
And I was actually going to use Motley Crue,
but like,
as an example.
You want to talk about a band that literally was built on publicity and an amazing publicity team. Motley Crue. I mean, even rock bands today. Greta Van Fleet. We have the whole episode about "Am I Missing Something?"
Yes.
I mean,
see, now you're taking all the things I was going to get to.
Well, sorry, but I was getting angsty here.
Okay. Okay. A band like Motley Crue, they do have teams behind them, but most of the teams behind them they're like a road crew that set things up and things like that.
No,
okay. So who are the songwriters for Motley Crue? Who are the songwriters from?
Hold on. They've had plenty of other musicians help. There's even a few of the songs on the greatest. There's 2 songs on the greatest hits album, Red, White, and Blue, or Crew. One of them was Tracy Gunn. I couldn't tell you all of them, but I know for a fact that they've had plenty of guest music.
Okay.
DJ Ashba, I'm sure, has helped write in a few songs.
Okay.
Motley Crue.
Maybe 4.
No. And also, Motley Crue, that's just one example, too. There's plenty of rock. Okay. Even, I hate to say this because I love 311, but even 311 has a million helps with songwriters. Their last album, there's a ton of songwriters that helped there. Blink-182's latest album there's plenty of examples of rock bands.
Right, but there's plenty of examples but it's not what built the band, and it's not what got them to where they are. To get the pop artists started, it's all based upon these teams of people. I don't believe that. Yeah. I think that's not fair either. Okay. That's not fair either. But I'm trying to explain to you where I think that this is coming from. And I think that's where it's actually coming from, is because all of these teams of people get this pop artist started, and it's not necessarily the pop artist doing the writing. And they have input, but it's not them doing the writing, and it's not them, having to grind and tour bars and having to, ride in vans all around the country to get respect. It's okay, we found this person. This person's got a voice. Okay, let's put some stage production behind them. Let's write some songs for them. Let's see what they like. Okay, so then we'll meld it all together, put this thing up on stage, and then it takes off like a rocket because science is behind it, quote unquote, instead of the raw emotions, the raw feelings of a band doing all of this from the start on their own. That's where I think that rock and roll has started to catch up with a band like Greta Van Fleet.
I would argue,
go listen to the other. Am I missing something on that?
And I would argue that has been that science has been applied to hundreds of rock bands in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s.
Nothing like today. Nothing like.
I would completely disagree. Maybe there's a little bit more technology involved, but to me, I just think it's naive to think that rock is that much more special than. I'm not saying that. I'm not being naive, and I'm not trying to say that it's more special. I'm trying to say that in the 70s and the 80s, if you faked it, like Milli Vanilli, if you fake it, you're gonna get caught. Nowadays, because the technology is so good, there's a lot more fudge factor. You can miss notes. You can not sing on key. You can lip sync, and chances are people aren't going to know. But for that rock band who has to do the grinding and has to know how to play their instrument, at least up until a certain point when, like you said, they get that backing behind them, that's when it starts to, they start to get built more like a machine than a band. That's where I think all this comes from. Where all this comes from. And I feel like we're giving rock a little too much credit. But you know what? We kind of got sidetracked. To bring it back to Eddie Van Halen and the Grammys, while it seems like we both agree that they didn't necessarily need to bring in an artist to perform in honor of Eddie Van Halen, Matt, I am curious, is there a guitarist or musician who you would have liked to have seen perform in the Grammys in his honor, other than Wolfgang? Because I think that definitely does make the most sense. I mean, obviously, the two names that come to my head, one would have been Steve Vai. The other one, well, there's two more. One, I don't think he could have did a good job, but I don't think he necessarily would have done the best job, would have been Zakk Wylde. But I think the person who probably would have brought
maybe the most authenticity would have been Slash.
See, I actually feel like while he would have been a lot of fun to watch, he was much. I always thought he was more of a Jimmy Page influenced guitarist than Eddie Van Halen.
No, if you watch anything where he talks about why he learned or why he started to, evolve as a guitar player, it was Eddie.
Two acts who I actually would have liked to have seen if given the chance, other than Wolfgang. Not that necessarily Alter Bridge is really on the Grammys radar, but I think Mark Tremonti would have actually done a very lovely job at doing Eruption. And you can also make the argument that because he was a close friend of Wolfgang and paying tribute to his friend's father would have been a nice touch. And you know that he would have done an authentic job. And this is where you might get a little like, what the hell are you talking about, Zach? But I actually would have loved if they went in the exact opposite of getting an electric shredder to pay tribute. And they went with a completely out of the box artist to showcase how Eddie Van Halen's influence was beyond just rock. That it really was on the instrument of a guitar. And I'm thinking of the acoustic guitar duo Rodrigo y Gabriela, who sort of rose to fame for their flamingo renditions of Metallica songs and some metal songs they did acoustic covers of, in addition to their own original music. So, I mean, right there, you know that they are huge hard rock and metal fans. They both came from metal bands before they decided to become an acoustic duo. And I think if they had done an acoustic rendition of Eruption, it would have made a lot of people go, wow, that was really beautiful. That was really touching tribute. And it showcased the musicianship of Eddie Van Halen and not just the fact that he was a loud guitarist.
You don't think the rock community would have flipped out at that, though?
No, and because people know their backstory, because they know that deep down, Rodrigo y Gabriela are metalheads at heart, and that they were coming to the tribute as not just for a chance to be on TV, but because they wanted to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen, who influenced them and all the artists that they grew up listening to as well. So I actually think there might have been a few people who aren't familiar with them going, what the hell is this? But I think it would have made a huge statement in the rock world, highlighting how here are two musicians, not, that you wouldn't expect to play Eruption. Like, it would have been the most different tribute, because that's all, like you mentioned earlier, we've seen a million tributes of Eddie Van Halen. We've seen a ton of covers online. And to me, and you can even make the argument that what the Grammys did was really more of a watered down version of what they actually did at the Billboard Music Awards, which occurred a day or two after Eddie Van Halen passed away. And they did it very similar with the guitar on stage. They had a bit of a little bit more, actually, I don't know, Matt, if you actually saw their tribute.
Nope.
It's probably exactly what you would have liked and suggested, which maybe adds more fuel to the fire of the Grammys did a half-assed job.
Well, then, see, I didn't know that, because now I'm going to say it's even more lazy because you already did what somebody else did. So come on,
Fair.
man.
But if I was going to see an artist on the Grammys pay tribute, I would want it to be either an artist who will help new fans go, maybe I should look into Eddie Van Halen, or just put a unique, different spin to showcase how his influence was larger than just metal and hard rock and just rock.
And then we should make the argument that, is it even Eruption that they should have played?
What song would you have wanted to hear?
If not that, I mean, they could have did Jump, obviously, because everybody knows Jump. They could have done another one of his solos. They could have did, like, if you wanted to bring Rodrigo Gabriela into this, you could have said, maybe they do little guitars, or maybe find some way to work in Cathedral.
Or even just hear them do an acoustic cover of Ain't Talking About Love. That would have been fun.
And really, any of the Van Halen hits, if you wanted to, do something different than Eruption, you could have. I mean,
but is there a song that you would have been, oh, wow, that's incredible? Let's even backtrack this. If you were to plan your dream Eddie Van Halen tribute, what musician would you get? And you only had 5 minutes to pay tribute to him.
5 minutes.
What musician would you get? And what 3 songs would you have them do a medley of forget what you think would resonate well with a TV audience. What 3 songs, if you had to pick 3, by the way, if you'd like to listen to more episodes on any platform you'd like, we have a great show called If You Have to Pick 3. If you had to pick 3 songs for the musician, for whichever musician that you really want to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen, and you only had 5 minutes, what 3 songs would you combine into a medley, and what musician would you choose?
So then if we're going, if you have to pick 3 rules, fine. We'll say Eruption is out of it then.
Okay, so all right, so then that's the new theme. The song's not named Eruption.
Okay. Fine. Number 1, because I fucking love this song and I don't know why. Pound Cake. It's another one of Eddie Van Halen's innovations. He bought a very specific drill that did a very specific theme that gave you a very specific sound. And at one point, I think he even hooked picks to a drill bit and did a pseudo solo with the picks flying on the string on the drill. So for me, I love that song. So Pound Cake. I think you almost have to do Jump because it's a very different Van Halen sound. The third one's always the hardest.
To buy yourself more time, do you want to name the musician that you would pick?
Are we talking a single musician like a guitarist, or are we talking an entire band?
I'll let you choose.
You'll let me choose. All right. Well, then I'm gonna default on this, and
it can't be the original members. No original members.
No. Because I think it would be a lot of fun, and not because you already said him, but I think Alter Bridge.
That could be fun.
You know what? I think I might have to go with Hot for Teacher.
Yeah, that's a fair pick. So for my 3, the 3 songs I would choose for a medley tribute. I think you have to do Jump. I think it showcased him as a musician, both not just with the guitar, but also the keyboards and what he, just how he was able to write a song. Second, it's actually my favorite Van Hagar era song, which, by the way, for us, pitching all the other episodes we've done for Epic Footnote, I think it's funny that we kind of forgot to mention that if you like hearing Matt and I have a heated discussion about topics, then you would love to hear us talk about why there is so much love-hate for the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen. So definitely check that out when you get a chance. But I would choose Why Can't This Be Love? And then the third one, I just think Ain't Talking About Love. Like, that's just, to me, one of the best Van Halen songs of all time. It's just so good. As for what artist or band or musician I would want, I'm sure I'm going to suddenly think of a band or an artist and be like, oh, that would have been much better. But I'm going to stand by my Rodrigo Y. Gabriela claim. Because to me, I would want this tribute to be more than just some guitarist or band regurgitating covers of Van Halen for the sake of doing it. I just envision the two of them with their acoustic guitars doing a really moving medley of like the jump keyboards, and then segueing into Ain't Talking About Love and Why Can't This Be Like. I just can envision it being done so well, especially if you do the right production with video of Eddie in the background, photos of Eddie. Like, I think if you do it right, it could really make an impact and be done where everyone, whether you know who Rodrigo y Gabriel are, whether you know who even Van Halen is, it will make a statement.
So you're saying like what the Grammys should have done, something to make a statement.
Would I have liked them to do a little more? But I still stand by that. I think the amount of hate that people have for the Grammys, there's nothing that will change some people's minds. And I'll admit that even I'm kind of like, Grammys, whatever. Like, I don't even know why I still watch them. Not even because of, oh, they disrespect this artist or they don't do that. You can do a whole episode of Are the Grammys Relevant? Which maybe there'll be a future. Oh, too bad we're out of time to discuss that. No, but I mean, I don't know. I just still think that in the end of the day, if the Grammys really did all that wrong, other than, but to your point, I do see that they could have paid a little bit more attention to what was on the screen, to the clip itself. I think it's just kind of crazy that it got so much heat that here we are talking about it.
See, now the last thing I'm going to bring up here is, what do you think they would have done for somebody who revolutionized like the hip hop world? So let's talk about it this way. What do you think they would do for somebody like a Jay-Z? Or what they do for somebody like an Eminem or Dr. Dre? You know, what would they do for people like that?
I think it would depend on when. If
But
it was
that's
to hold on, if it was to happen tomorrow, it would probably be a whole hour of a tribute to Jay-Z or Eminem, because you can make the argument that, and I hate saying this out loud because I'll be the first to say I love Eddie Van Halen, and I was shaken by his death in ways I was not expected to be. Still to this day, it still kind of doesn't seem real. But you got to remember the influence that Jay-Z has currently. I mean, when we talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you said yourself that he was a shoe-in for
right. There's
all
no
the
doubt
impact
about
that
it.
he's had. Would they still do a huge hour-long tribute to him in 10 years, in 40 years? Who knows? I would argue maybe not as big. Maybe it would end up just being one song with two rappers doing the best verses, or maybe it would just be a spotlight on a New York Yankees hat on a table with his image in the background in 20, 30 years. Is it morbid that I'm even saying out loud what scenarios would be for like, I don't know.
See, I shudder to think, and this is where I'm really, and I don't want anything to happen to anybody. And, I'm saying this ahead of time. I don't want anything to happen to anybody. But if something happened to somebody, who was impactful from the other side, being like the pop, the hip hop, maybe even the country, world, if something happened to somebody there, what would that tribute look like? And then I think that would give you an idea of the scope of what they think about rock and roll, to be completely honest, because your barometer of comparison right now is a Kenny Rogers tribute. So, Kenny Rogers in his own right, did a lot for country and, was a great country musician. But I think Eddie Van Halen, potentially deserved a little bit more because of who he was. There is no other barometer of comparison for Eddie Van Halen other than somebody who is ultra relevant and ultra popular. Even then, you can make the argument that the people who watch the Grammys are probably either music nerds, people who are just there for the performances, or people who have always watched it and they're in the demographic of, I want to say, 40 and greater. And they probably, and once again, I'm going to, take the strings from picture to picture here. And Eddie Van Halen was married to Valerie Bertinelli, and she's on the Food Network all the time. So people know who Eddie Van Halen is by associations, even if they don't like, oh, she was married to that guitar player guy, right? Yeah. Oh, he just died, right? And they're gonna do something on the Grammys, right? So, their associations and comparison, they know his name. They know who he is. So why not, do something a little bit more for him instead of just 15 seconds? He didn't have 15 minutes of fame. This dude was popular his entire career for one thing or another.
And meanwhile, I would make the argument that I don't think seeing Lionel Richie perform a Kenny Rogers song was really that much more touching than what the Grammys actually did. That, in just my opinion, could it have been a few more seconds long? Could have they done more production? But to me, they
got the song right.
But to me, I just don't think I would have been any more moved seeing them do more.
Is it about being moved, or is it about saying that they got it right?
Can it be both?
It could be both, but I shudder to think that you did it just as a tongue-in-cheek thing because it's what people expected, instead of doing it for the right reasons, or even putting it together in the way that makes sense by playing the right damn song. At least with the Kenny Rogers thing, they performed the song. They performed a interlude prior to his most popular solo of all time. The thing that revolutionized the sound.
Side note, Lionel Richie can still sing.
He can.
He did a very nice job. But you know what? I'm sure we can go on hours and hours about this. What do you think? Do you feel that what they did was more than enough? Do you feel that it was disrespectful and they really did do Eddie Van Halen wrong? What do you think they could have done differently? What should they have done? What should they not have done? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos and podcast episodes like this. And once again, thank you to our sponsor, Lucky 13 Beard Company. Go over to etsy.com/shop/Lucky 13 Beard Co. right now. Use the code EFP10 to receive 10% off of your next order of beard oils. You heard us talk about it before. Really can't emphasize how great this product is. Again, etsy.com/Lucky 13 Beard Co. The code EFP10. And thanks so much for listening. Hope you join us again real soon.
See ya.